We're born into our names, but we become family by heart. I'm Dustin Gruss, public speaker and family transition coach. When my wife and I found out in the beginning of 2016 that we weren't going to be able to have our own biological children just 7 months into our marriage, we were shook. Little did we know what lied ahead through our journey of infertility, foster care, and where we are now, having recently adopted our two beautiful boys. What we do know is every little bit of help we got along the way was priceless. And that's what we can expect with this podcast. Stories of inspiration and resources to lead you through that journey. From the heartbreak of infertility to the hope and blessings that come with foster care and adoption. We may have different stories, backgrounds, and names, but we're all family here. This is Family by Heart. What's up, family? Welcome to another episode of Family by Heart. I'm your host, Dustin Gruss. And as you always hear me say, we may come from different backgrounds, have different ideas and stories, but what's important is that we all come together and we become family. We're all family here. This is Family by Heart. And today I have an amazing guest. I'm so excited that he's here. When we first started chatting, connecting, I just knew even more that, like, dude, I got to have this guy on, especially because of his family story and what I learned about him and where I learned about him. You'll hear about that in just a little bit. But I want to welcome Mr. Reggie DeVore, otherwise known as Blacklight, Blacklight hip hop music. Reggie, thank you so much for being here, man. Welcome.
No problem. Thank you guys so much for having
Dude,
me.
it's just awesome just hearing and knowing about your story. But first and foremost, well, not first and foremost, the family part, the fatherhood part, that is the big thing. But um, I wanna kick off
Mhm.
starting with Blacklight hip hop. How did you come up with the moniker for Blacklight?
So the name Blacklight. Well, first, I'm a poet. So I always like wordplay. And then when you think about it, Blacklight itself is wordplay and a contradiction in what it in itself. Also, I'm in Black, African American, whatever we want to be labeled at this point. Um, I am. I mean, it's just I say that because I try to diminish the labels. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be now I'm going on a philosophical thing now, right? I don't want to be insensitive, but at the same time I want to be like I am a human being first. So all these other labels don't really matter because we're all human, right? Anyway, but I am a Black man that grew up in America that has gone through the struggles, the oppression and things like that. And we all still go through it today, and I would want to shed a light on that, Black light, shedding a light on that. Also, being the contradiction, I'm a rapper, and most mainstream rappers now um, are, it has a lot of destructive themes in them. I'm trying to be political. It has a lot of destructive things and themes in them, but I want to be that hardcore rapper that isn't destructive. And if you go and listen to my catalog and stuff like that, it's all about, building financial growth, building mental and being a strong person for everyone that's around you, not just your kids or your wife, friends and community and things like that too. So that's where the name comes from in a long-winded
No, no, and
explanation.
that's awesome, man. And of course, I heard about it, like you explained a little bit on the show in which I learned about you, and we'll get into that a little bit
Mm-hmm.
as well. But again, you are down in Austin, Texas, correct? So
Mm-hmm.
Texas is known as a pretty conservative state. With your
Mm-hmm.
music aiming to bring Black issues to light, what kind of racism and oppression have you had to face in such a conservative state? And then, aside from your music, trying to bring those things to light, like what kind of things have you done to help combat some of that racism and oppression that you're facing? Because obviously you have the buzzwords like or the buzz groups like Black Lives Matter and stuff, and obviously in your
Mm-hmm.
first answer trying to be sensitive to the different labels and stuff, but at the same time you are a human first and foremost. So what have you been doing to kind of combat that in such a conservative state where conservative people are kind of usually labeled as a little bit more racist, to be blunt?
So to go with the theme of being a human first and then dealing with everything after that. So as being a human first, I'm a great father, right? So how I've been battling oppression and stuff like that. Um I'm not gonna lie. I before I was a civilian, I was a civilian. I was in the military and I went to the war. I went to war and I have PTSD. So it took me a couple years of taking
Mm,
solitude, being to myself to figure out how I need to control these reactions and stuff like that. And then it went forward to, oh, I have a son. Now I need to teach him
mm,
how to control these reactions to the environment. And through his growth, I'm going to answer your question, but through his growth and coming up and through the school system, we have encountered racism in the craziest kind of ways where it's like um people have been put into situations where like, oh, my hands are tied. For instance, my son is a straight A student, and the last year of his program, they wanted to kick him out without letting the parents know. Like we didn't even know. The only reason I figured it out is because I went up to the school myself.
mm.
And then we talked and talked and talked, and lo and behold, there was just policies that weren't being followed um, by humans, but further labeled as Caucasian. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? So he has implicit biases is the main issue. He's taller than me. He's 6 foot with dreadlocks and he likes to wear hoodies.
Mm,
But he's a straight A student. So back to the point, how have I combated this? I have equipped him with the tools to how to deal with this frustration, call dad, and know that dad's gonna
mm,
be there. You know, I feel like, that could be one of the most powerful things you could teach your
mhm.
children. Period. A, as a father, you need to be there, and B, you're not alone in
Yeah.
this fight. So never feel helpless. So I think that for my family is what I want to echo out into the world. Am I
Oh,
explaining this correctly? Are you
absolutely,
understand what I'm
absolutely.
trying to?
Because
All
that's
right.
one that's important for myself to hear as well. Because you know, to go with the labels, of course, I am a Caucasian man, and my two adopted sons are
Right.
black sons. But we are humans. But at the same time, my wife and I live in a pretty predominantly white community and stuff. And while unfortunately, with the circumstances in the country and the history of it, while our yes,
Implicit
implicit
biases.
biases, our sons are cute and adorable and friendly right now and stuff, but we realize that there's at a certain age, there's suddenly going to be a switch goes off where they're not going to be looked at as cute and adorable by the general public. That bias is going to change and they're going to be looked at as a threat. So it's also
Hmm.
helpful for me to hear from other humans, other fathers, how to handle it in that sense, but also I haven't had to face those implicit biases that you've had to face. I haven't had to face the oppression and the reactions that you've had to face. So it's meaningful and more powerful for me to have this conversation with you, and as well as some of the kids I grew up with, and knowing some of their stories and things that they had to deal with in the same community that I grew up in, but I didn't experience what they did. So hearing as a father, um, you know, with a teenage son and now and also a toddler, how you're navigating that stuff, and just tips like equipping them and being there for them and hearing them and raising them under that that side, because you mentioned like your son likes to wear hoodies and stuff. Like my wife is nervous about, even though they're toddlers, like she doesn't want our kids to get in the habit of, while we dress them in hoodies, she doesn't want to get them in the habit of wearing their hood up, because if they get so comfortable with it in the future, then like she doesn't want them to be have the same fate as Trayvon Martin or many of the other good stuff. So
Exactly.
thank you for sharing this.
Yeah, you're gonna have to have that. you're gonna have that talk with them, and I think it's gonna be very empowering for you and your boys. I'm so excited. Well, not excited, but I'm happy that they have someone like you to go through this with. I can already tell from the words that you
Mhm.
choose that it's gonna be, you're gonna be there for them, which is the main important
Absolutely.
thing.
Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Uh,
Hmm.
Now, kind of, and I don't mean I'm not going to draw this out, make this whole thing about racism by any means or anything, but um, aside from your uh, touring in the military, first of all, thank you for your service. I appreciate that greatly.
You're
Um,
welcome.
but you actually got to tour overseas with Dua Lipa and Katy Perry, and that was right before the Ahmaud Arbery and the George Floyd and among other cases of social injustice, like before that, like sparked the whole big movement in here in the United States. Did you experience a lot of what did you see overseas when it came to like social injustice, implicit bias, and things? Because those cases ended up making, whether you're talking about the organization or just the phrase Black Lives Matter or not, like it became a big worldwide thing. Like, EuroLeague soccer, there were guys kneeling and and all that stuff. So what did you witness overseas while you were touring with those huge megastars?
Well, so as far as socially society goes, in India they have the caste system, so it's like if you're born poor, there's no way for you to make it up,
Hmm.
essentially. um and it was a completely different look. Going to other countries is always a mind shifting thing. Just seeing, like, I'm leaving the hotel and I'm seeing Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and right beside the hotel there are toddlers that are literally malnutritioned, and other things that come with homelessness and stuff like that. It was just a mind shocking shifting thing to see. So with that, I would say that there's oppression
Hmm.
everywhere. You know, and at least here in America, we have the options or the illusion of the option to work to get our way out of it, which is powerful in
Hmm.
itself. So once again, back to my name, like that's something that I want to do. Just bring, who doesn't want to have that? Like, bring world
Hmm.
prosperity to everyone. And if equality is that way, then that's what we need to do. But prosperity for everyone.
Well, I can tell you who doesn't want to bring that. It's the one percenters at the top. Like that's the ones that don't want it for everyone. They're
Well, from what I hear, that's
yeah,
changing. But we will have
yeah.
to see. There's a lot of things that are happening in the financial issue. I mean, in the
Mhm.
financial realm, which is a whole nother podcast, which I'm totally into. Um, so it's from the stories that my mother tells me that she went through, and from the things that I went through, even being in the military. It's definitely getting
Mhm.
better. It's getting better. Let's just keep that upward
Yeah,
slope.
absolutely,
World.
absolutely. All right, now the fun parts. Um, I learned about you. I when I was writing down these questions, I want to make sure I worded it right because I learned about you. I didn't discover you; you were already discovered. I learned about you on Queer Eye on Netflix,
Hmm.
season 6. Um, First of all, what was the process like between submitting to then being like going through that process and then actually being on? And like, because I know like when it comes to like reality shows, like some things are portrayed a certain way, and then like it's then you read about like the articles online, like the clickbait, and they're like, oh, that's not really how it goes. But like on the show, it was said that your wife Sasha nominated you and stuff. Like, was that the
Hmm.
actual case? Like, she nominated you, and then how'd that go from there? Like to actually getting selected to be on the show.
She did nominate me. There was a selection process. and it was it was kind of short. There were other people that were going into it, but my I don't know if you know, my wife is a
I
novelist. I'm sure she
oh,
wrote
I
something
got questions
quite
about that as
well.
well. Yeah.
Also, when we met, our very first meeting, when we met with the producer that was doing the show, uh, I was totally quiet the whole time, and Sasha and her took just talking and talking and talking, and next thing you know, it's like, wow, are y'all gonna be friends after this? You know what I mean? It just went that way. She just has that
Mhm.
vibe. So whether you want to write it like, oh, there was a screening process, regardless of how you write it, Sasha did nominate me. She was the one who put the cat in the bag. She grabbed the deal at the end of the day.
And how was that conversation between you two when she told you, "Hey, I'm nominating you for this"? Like, had you guys been like Queer Eye fans? Have you been watching the show before that, or was there an announcement made to like in the papers in the Austin area, like, "Hey, like this show's coming. We're looking for people, looking for transformation." Like,
So yes, that happened. There was a lot of before, maybe 6 months leading, 6 months before filming, I heard about it, but I was just like, I'm not gonna go and do that. I'm not gonna sign myself up
yeah.
for it. I'm just gonna, at the time Sasha was 5 months, maybe 4 months pregnant, and we were having labor
Mhm.
issues. Oh, I thought Sophie was going to be premature, so that was the last thing on my mind. I had even stopped being an artist,
Mhm.
to take care of
Yeah,
your wife
absolutely.
for a while, right? So when it happened, it's like, oh, one day, oh, your baby's in the clear, you're gonna have a normal pregnancy. Oh, thank God. A week later, oh, you have this coming up. Oh, thank God. It's like it was like super stressful to super relief.
Nice, nice. So, and how
Yeah.
was the experience for you? Because like, I mean, I watched the show. I like it. Like, I mean, it's one of the shows for me that is touching and like I'm a dude, but I cry like every episode. Like, it's something that pulls on my strings and one just your guys' family story was one of the things that did that for me. But and we'll get into that a little bit more. But like there were moments in the show where like with Karamo where you're like having to find that confidence in yourself, like, and then with Jonathan, like doing your hair and finding like, oh man, okay, this looks good. And then with Tan and trying on the different outfits and discovering your style, which still is pretty fly right now. I like that sweater, man. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, like, what was the experience like for you, and working with each of the guys, and how fun was it? First of all, because they seem like they'd be a blast to be around.
Right. Well, it was. So we got to remember this was shot during a time of
Hmm.
COVID, so I didn't get a lot of time to chill with everyone like I would have liked, but we did talk. There was behind the scenes where Tan held Stokely, and it was his face lit up because he was getting ready
Yeah.
to be a father. Um, uh, you know, so in a whole nutshell, I love the process of
Hmm.
working, right? I'm a producer, so I get in there, I'm down in the dirt with my people. And, to do what they did in four
Hmm.
days was one, amazing and ridiculous. Two, for my family not to need anything was ridiculous as well. They covered all
Wow.
bases. That's, you hear the story of like Eminem ordering only green Eminem in the bowls. That's for a reason. Like if this is not taken care of, then there's a lot of other stuff
Mm,
that's not taken care of, and they were definitely on
nice.
their game. Um, so seeing that type of professionalism, uplifted my spirits. I was like, yeah, we need to get to work. Now the Fab Five, Karamo was great. He's a very smart, intelligent,
Hmm.
black man. Not to throw out the labels, human being for sure, but that was great to see. It was also great to see, as a man, we have our head down, not so much our head down, but like we work and work and work to keep everything afloat, right? To keep the wife happy and keep this happening. Like I don't know many men that do it that are doing it for compliments or for the feedback, but just to get that, be like, oh man, you are doing your thing with your family. Multiple people say that. That may be even better than the house rebuild.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just like, you know, So that's another takeaway that I have. And also, just to go back, you said earlier, I watch this and I cry and I have these emotions. I tell my son all the time, and I think that we need to change the rhetoric of how men
Mm,
deal with emotions and pain and stuff like that. Like, to be a man isn't not to feel anything; it's to be able to feel it and then still come out
mm,
balanced. You know what
absolutely.
I'm saying? That's the way that I've taken it, and that's what I tell my son. It's like it's not. I'm not saying that we feel it more or less than women. It's just being able to feel it, and then rationally or logically being able to create the environment from. I mean, create the perfect environment from what you're feeling
Mm.
already, from whatever that is.
And I
Is
realized
it
I fell right into that stereotype of saying, "Oh, I'm a dude," so I cried. But like, no, I was voted most sensitive in like my high school like um superlatives and stuff like that, like because I'm I always care about people,
right?
I take care of them, and I show emotions and stuff like, and I have no problem telling my kids like, oh, it's okay that you're crying right now. You're not gonna get what you want because you're crying, but like, you're allowed to show your emotions and stuff. Just understand, like,
Right.
so helping them process emotions, and I completely agree. Like, men need to express their emotions through crying, through words, through music, through poetry, through uh was it like break rooms or rage rooms where they're breaking stuff, like whatever, like get it out of you, because if you just keep stuffing it down, like it's not going to do you any good. It's going to cause health issues, and you'll
Oh, for
probably
sure.
blow up at someone you really shouldn't be, your family, your kids, a superior at work, police officer, any of that. Like, so it's so important for people
Right.
to express what they're feeling. And you holding it down for your family is
One.
something I definitely resonated with within your story, because you were doing things that you didn't necessarily want to. You're a music producer in addition to rapping, so you, as said in the episode, that you had mostly just been doing a lot more producing for other people, making the music for their tracks instead of spending the time on your own music. And
Mm-hmm.
I got that because when my wife and I were going through our foster process, I had been working as a personal trainer when it all first started, and then the pandemic hit, and so like all the gyms were shut down up here in Ohio. Through probably most of the country, most of the gyms were shut down. So it gave me the opportunity to be at
Mm-hmm.
home with the kids. Um, but when it came to like us having, okay, we added the second foster child. When I'm working as a personal trainer, like my hours are usually the opposite of everyone else's like work hours, because they're going to gym either before work or after work. So that meant if I'm working those
Mm-hmm.
hours, that means my wife is being super mom in the morning, super mom in the evening while I'm at work, and she's going to work in the middle of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's putting so much on her plate. So through the pandemic, I actually got a chance to kind of reset, and for all of 2021, I worked as a painter, just a basic job. It's nothing I had planned on doing, but it brought us good money, brought us stability. Hours were the same, where I was able to be home and help with the kids and everything. And then once our adoption became final in January, I've been a stay-at-home dad for the last 7 months, and that's been such a blessing. So being able to be
Mm-hmm.
involved in the kids' lives, and not necessarily like get that recognition, like you're not looking for it, but when you get it, it's like, oh, like thank you. I feel seen as a dad. I feel seen,
Right.
and I think that's one of the things that most men really want out of life is they want to provide for their family. They want to take care of their family and stuff. So when we are getting that recognition, whether it's your love language or not of affirmation, like it's good to get that, like you're doing a great job, doing a great job. So
Right.
I definitely felt you on that, man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so as we mentioned, like during the pandemic, you were doing mostly beats for other people. Uh, and your music video for workout, like, or no, actually it was so I'm looking at
One more
never
time. Is
settle,
it
your never settle story and stuff about how
okay?
you were
Mm-hmm.
working a full-time job during the day, then working in the evening on your story.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, what I'm trying to get to, this is a very long-winded way of saying it, is that your story of doing what you need to do, but the fact that you were on Queer Eye because you felt stuck and you weren't really working on your music anymore. That story could have been, you could be on this podcast, Family by Heart, or my other one called Coming Unstuck, a Step Up to Greatness podcast. Like your need to come unstuck and to, while you're doing the things you needed to for your family, it was very evident in that episode of Queer Eye that you wanted to show then little Reggie, now medium Reggie, that how important it is for you to chase your dreams, for you to follow dreams, for you to follow through and not give up stuff. So what was that experience like for you, like going from working a day job and working on music in the evening to beats to all of a sudden, like, now Reggie's seeing you, all right, I'm on stage again, I'm making music, I got new labels, you're putting him on the cover of one of your albums and stuff, like, it was pretty sweet. So how has that changed your guys' relationship since Queer Eye?
Well, since Queer Eye, to answer that, let me give you a little bit
Mm-hmm.
before Queer Eye. So, after I had got out of the military, I said I had to deal with PTSD for a couple years. In that time, I actually started doing music while I was really depressed, and Reggie was in first and second grade, right? So a couple years go by, I go to school, and then I graduate, and I land an internship at a platinum selling producer studio. He actually wrote for Kelly
Oh
Clarkson
wow.
and other crazy stuff like that. It's ridiculous. Like I did a lot of country
Okay.
engineering back then. So and I wasn't getting paid for
Mm-hmm.
that. Being an intern was free, and I was going to school, so a lot of that was coming out of my pocket, right? So, Reggie was seeing me do that. There were days that I would bring Reggie to the studio, and I'd like sit in
Mm-hmm.
the car while I go do this, or come in and while I clean up. So, fast forwarding, when Queer Eye, picked me up from the pandemic and, for lack of better words, put me back on my feet to get ready to get
Mm-hmm.
moving. Um, it was more of, you know, I can't let Reggie see me give up when I'm in my ninth
Mm.
inning. You know what I mean? Um, I mean, I feel like I'm in my ninth inning now, though. At the time when I was, you gotta
Oh
say it's
yeah.
always the ninth inning, right? But so that's that's more so the message that I wanted to instill in him. Like, don't give up. It's gonna get hard. There are gonna be obstacles in your way that are supposed to make you stronger. Like, just don't give up. And that's where we are now. You know, as he's going to school now, he's in a culinary
Mm-hmm.
um program. When he graduates from high school, he'll have his associate's degree and all the credentials to open up his own restaurant because he wants to be a
Mm-hmm.
chef. So he's now taking college classes in ninth grade, and that's a little hard. You know what I mean? He went from making straight A's to being like, "Dad, I need you to help me in this college algebra." I'm like, "Boom, I can do that. I'm a math. I love
Okay.
math, so luckily that's easy." So I'm answering your question with a whole bunch of
No,
situations,
it's
but still, it's the never giving up. You know what I mean? I'm there to help, never give up, and
there we
keep
go.
moving. I feel like I'm talking
No, I,
too
I I love it, man. Like, and I'll get into like one of the songs I love and the message within it and stuff. In a few
much.
minutes we'll cover the music, but we'll talk about the family a little bit since we're talking about Reggie. So you mentioned that you
hmm
met Sasha in high school, um,
hmm
but then you went served in the military. Well, first of all, you met her in high school. Were you guys like friends first, or did like you meet and one of you pursue the other one, and how that whole thing come together? And then like, was it before you went in the military? Were you one of those couples that like, okay, we gotta get married. He's going in the military, so if we don't know what's gonna happen, or like, was were were you married when you left to serve, and like how that whole history of you and Sasha play out?
All right. So how we met, she actually lived on the house directly behind me. I stayed on 2400 Tracy and Lane. She stayed on 2400 Traverse. Uh, um, and we met her freshman year, my sophomore year. Anyway, so I wasn't married when I first went into the military. I always took things slow. I wanted to make sure, and then it was a little trying because my first duty station was in Japan. So there was a year and a half where she was going to college and I was, serving in Japan. We talked on the phone every day, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to come back home. And by this time, we had been separated for 2 years, and then we had got back together, and it was just like we hadn't missed a day. So then I knew at that point I knew that it was that she would need to be around for like a lifetime, right? Still a little
Right.
unsure, because where we live in the times, but we definitely broke the statistics. So yeah, did
Yeah,
I answer your
yeah,
question?
that's awesome. And we kind of tiptoed on this earlier. Sasha is a
Uh-huh.
teacher and an author. And I
Mm-hmm.
watched one. I love the fact that on your link tree, you have the link for buying her book to read
Oh,
and
for
stuff. That's
sure.
that's you know that's the husband. Like that. Props to you on that, man. And watch the trailer for her book series called The Wake. So make sure y'all check out The Wake by Sasha DeVore. And I'm definitely gonna be peeping at myself.
Oh, to give you a little insight on that, I probably shouldn't. But the other day she talked to one of the ladies who wrote the Trolls and did a lot of other stuff for Disney and Pixar and stuff like that. So hopefully here soon she will be a movie director
Ooh.
as well. We're trying we're working our hands in multiple different areas. So be kind of on a sneak peek lookout
Hey,
for
and
that.
I know someone who could be on the soundtrack. I know someone.
Hey. I'm actually one of the characters in her book, so I don't know if I want to be all over it. But I mean, maybe if I get big, you never know. Maybe a good
Dude,
thing,
you're already big to me, man. So, and not just for your music, dude. Um, so
right?
you got obviously you got your boys. You got again during the show. You guys called him Little Reggie. Now you call him Medium Reggie. And then you got
Hmm.
Stokely is 2 now, right, or 3?
He is 16
Okay,
months
so
right
almost 2.
now, so almost a
Okay,
year and a half.
cool, cool. Again, one of the things I loved, like when you and I were first connecting over, message on Instagram, like just hearing that, like, oh, I'm trying to wear down my boy at the park right now. I'm trying to wear down Stokely. I'm like,
Yeah.
I get that. I totally get that, man. So, uh, obviously we saw on Queer Eye that Reggie was into culinary. He connected with Anthony real well and stuff, and he's been doing making food for his culinary school. Wants to open his own restaurant, be a chef. Has he taken any interest in music? Does he have any music talent at all? Too is
Oh, definitely. Him and his mother play
okay.
clarinet. Um, so he's not as big into it as video games and cooking, that's for sure. But he does have a little bit of a music
Okay,
background.
cool. And then we again messaged to Messenger that apparently he's quite the baller as well, and has
Oh
opened it
yes,
up, man.
I had to give up the shoes. He took me to the court and beat
Uh,
me at 13 years old. I was like, oh, that's it for me.
oh man, that's got to be humbling because I didn't beat my dad in racquetball until he was almost 70. So that's like he just was one of those, like I don't know if you've ever played racquetball, but he's got like the
Definitely.
geometry of it down, like figuring out, and then the kill shot. Like I think I'm wearing him down. All of a sudden, it's like he kills it, and I'm like, what? So
Yeah, that's one of those games that takes a long time. Actually, to hit a ball with the racket and get the correct
Right.
spin on it, that's actually way hard. Have you tried to play? I mean, obviously you have, but have you tried to play
Yeah,
tennis?
yeah,
I'm sure you
yep,
have. That's like one of the hardest
mhm,
games. But
yep, and it's also interesting too, like, hearing that why you hear the the competitors grunt so much, like, especially the women, is because they're trying to hide how they hit the ball, so you can't hear, like, how it's sliced, like, a lot of people don't realize that, like, they're grunting yeah, they're
oh,
grunting and shouting is not because they're hitting it so hard, it's like, they might grunt real loud, but they're actually trying to lay it up and go soft on you and just do a drop shot, and but you that little split second it takes you to figure it out might be all they need for that ball to drop that second time, so see, you learned something new.
super
You
strategic.
learned something new.
Super
Yeah.
strategic. Yeah.
Um, now what about, you said Reggie was in, like, 1st and 2nd grade when you started making your music and everything, like, does he have, a favorite song of yours that, he likes to listen to? Is he listen to your music, or is he usually, like is he doing his own stuff?
He does, and he's pretty brutal when he gives his opinions, which is something that I like. Luckily, he's never said anything bad about my music, but I would say if what do you mean would probably be his favorite song of
Mhm,
mine, but it always changes. They hear my music so much. So he made like one of the new songs that none of you guys have
mhm.
heard yet. So it's
Yeah,
hard to tell.
yeah. And that's the other thing too, like your family's probably hearing your music a lot more. I used to do like speech competitions and would practice for my wife, like, and anytime I want to just kind of give it to her a little bit, I'll start one of my speeches that she had to hear like 100 times. I'll start like, I forget like there's a saying that time flies when you're having fun. And, like I say that, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, are you serious?" And it's just like, don't even. So that and dad jokes gets your eyes rolling every time. So um,
At least you know how to push her buttons.
I gotta give back a little bit, you know.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
What's something you do that pushes Sasha's buttons?
Everything. No joking. Um, what do I do that pushes her buttons? So there was a time in my life where I was a really huge
Mm,
motorcycle rider, and I'm sure. And little Reggie was a newborn at this time. I don't ride anymore because I don't want to get injured. But I was I definitely, never. I was never the guy to go out drinking or you have to go pick me up at a bar. But give me a car or a motorcycle, I'm out. So I'm sure, cars. If I was to cheat on Sasha, it would probably be with the car, or motorcycle. So that has to be her pet
okay.
peeve.
Now, are we talking like Harleys and hogs, or are you talking crotch rockets like the Mitsubishi, Suzuki kind of stuff? Both.
Both. Not gonna lie, I love everything wrapped in metal. My dad rode Harleys.
Okay.
I rode mostly crotch rockets, but at my older age, if I got on one now, I probably would hurt my back. You know what I mean? Definitely the Harley sitting back cruising. The Gold Wings are actually really. See, here we go. Here we go. Gold Wings are really nice, but you know,
Yeah.
I got to keep it copacetic these days. Not trying to ride and hurt myself. Got to play ball for
There you
another
go.
one.
Yeah, ninth inning. You might have to go to inning 10, inning 11, inning 13. You never know. So,
Right, right.
all right. So when I first reached out to you, I was just getting to hear your music for the first time. Like I reached out like because I had just watched your episode on Queer Eye the night before, and then there I am at the
Mm-hmm.
gym listening to music on Spotify, and I'm just telling how much I liked your music, then or your story. Then all of a sudden I'm like, well, okay, all right. I'm like, dang, this is good. And then I start texting like some of my friends, and I'm sure they loved getting a text at like 6:30 in the morning, like, dude, check out this music. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, you will love it. And they did, by the way. They did. I got some guys converted listen to you now.
Oh,
But
thank you.
yeah, you both like made my workout so awesome, but then killed it at the same time. And I know I told you that because I kept stopping to text people, and so I my workout took a little bit long. got home a little late, but that's one of my wife's pet peeves is if I don't get home when I'm supposed to. Um, yeah,
For sure.
time is one of her love languages. I know that. But your songs, your music, hands down, like I love a lot of your songs, but sometimes that hands down, like the message in that one, um, is just there's just little bombs here and there and stuff like, um, and just hearing you talk in the middle of it, like literally the words you spoke to your son before you sent him off to school gets for like just that little speaking part. I'm like, oh, I get it. Like having that moment with your son before you send him out into the world, because face it, the world, we don't know what's going to happen these days and stuff. So, but that part, but there's such a good message that how did that the writing process for that song come about?
Well, I told you earlier in the day of how we had to deal with my son being removed from school. Um, Also, just various other situations that I've gone through just from being a African American man in this society. Obviously, just once again that black light shedding the light to whatever to the dark in our community. And another thing too, if you listen to the second verse of that song, it talks about jail and stuff like that. My father, who passed away, he went to jail in the '80s for selling cocaine.
Hmm.
That was the only way that he could figure out how to make enough money for me and my mom and my older sister at the time, right? And so then, he's taken away for years, and then our family's broken up, and like I've probably seen him, you know, maybe 13 times my whole
Hmm.
life. So yeah, that whole song is just all of that in a
Hmm.
bottle, I mean not in a bottle, but just in a all that anger, all those emotions just directed in the most balanced way that I could figure out at that
Yeah.
time. And that was the song. That's how the song came
Yeah.
out,
And
obviously.
balance is definitely what I would say, because where you're talking about in the second verse, you're talking about frustrated, I gotta eat it, or and I
And I
need
need
dessert. Yeah.
dessert. Keep on
Yeah.
trying.
And you're
Yeah.
talking about
I
that,
you,
and then but then you're like this that song to keep you motivated and stuff like, and so then you're going from the anger is all of a sudden like, okay, but this is the song, this is where you gotta be balanced and keep pushing, keep going. And sometimes you're gonna cry, you can have those emotions, like the world's gonna get you down, but that happens sometimes. You just gotta keep working, and that's why I love that song. It's just like, and that's one of the songs that I'll just like be bopping around the house, and my wife will be like just kind of bopping, and my kids will start like, "What's this, Daddy?" I'm like, "Oh, just keep listening, keep listening." So
that's
yeah,
soul, yeah. So one of my favorite artists, Lauren
oh yeah,
Hill. I don't think there's a better MC, rapper, definitely maybe as talented
mm,
female singers. Erica Badu,
right,
I
right,
love her as well. But Lauren Hill, the way that she crossed genres and did all of that, um, she was one of my heavy influences. And you can definitely feel the neo soul type vibe in that
absolutely,
song for sure.
absolutely. And then a couple other ones that just hit me. Workout. That was one of the first ones I heard while I was working out, so that fit. I'm like, oh, there we go.
Yeah, perfect.
And in my zone, that was also like just killing it for the workout. So just some
Hmm.
great songs. Like, is there um a favorite song of yours that like you're most attached to, that or maybe is there a song that you felt like, I know you feel like you're still not big, but again, you toured with Katy Perry and Dua Lipa, like, oh, so it is there a song that you feel like pushed you into another level of the atmosphere that's like, okay, this is changing things for me? Like, do you feel like there's a song or
So
yeah.
there's a.
No,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry to cut you off, but yes, there were songs at certain milestones, I would
Mhm.
say, that hold very emotional charge to me. So there's a song Colder. It's one of my very
Mm,
first songs that I put out. It's not mixed very well, and I haven't gone back and changed it, even though I have all the technology to
mhm,
do so. I kind of like it. It tells me where I was from.
mm,
I listen to it. I'm like, oh my god! But the message behind it, at that time let me know like, oh wow, you actually have a message and you're pretty good, you should
mhm,
keep doing this. That was year what 3 of me trying to be a
mm,
rapper. Um so and then so we go to live. Any of my songs that are hype for live, if
oh,
I could
yeah.
just like, because I have a drum set for live, it's like anything above 130 bpms is
There you
my
go.
favorite for live. Yeah. So and I know I'm doing a lot of stuttering because I'm trying to
Uh,
think, but
but that means you got such a good
one more
catalog. It
time.
just
Go
means you
ahead.
got such a deep catalog, man, that you're just trying to think of those. That's
thanks,
what it is,
for,
man.
thanks for being
Hey, man,
nice.
dude, I love your music. I'm just putting it out there. So you got a great catalog, and we'll continue. But I interrupted you, so go on.
Oh, that's fine. Don't worry. But like, one more
Mm,
time, was a song I just released, and that, let's see, I haven't written a love song like strictly, you know, for me and my wife. I've always wanted music to be everyone to
mhm,
relate to, and that was the one that I was like, I'm gonna write a song about what's really going on in my head about Sasha, and it came out
yeah,
perfect. Like, there was I wanted to treat her like a woman, but I also wanted the song to be sexual. I also wanted to show my lyrical ability and the poetic ability at the same time, and it came out so
mhm.
perfect. Even my mom was like, she was like, that song reminds me of Marvin Gaye. I'm like, like,
If
thanks,
it's the song
mom.
I think it is, like, and I'm pretty sure it is. I'm like, yeah, I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about, man. I'm like, I almost feel like maybe I shouldn't be listening to this song at the gym right
Mm.
now. Like trying to do
Yeah, I don't know if you want to listen to that one at the gym, but
I'm trying to do squats here, and I'm like, no, that's a good deep cut. That's a good one too. So
hmm
you obviously got new music in the works stuff. What else you got going on with you? Oh, one thing I wanted to bring up. I saw you got to spend some time volunteering, teaching local elementary school how to make beats stuff, and I read in
hmm
your caption that it's something you do on the regular, but obviously it meant a little bit more this time. But tell us about like that time creating, like working with the kids at school, and like maybe any other projects you get to do like that.
All right, so I've my wife works at a school, and the whole school has kind of like adopted me. Anything that has to go down with audio or music, they'll call me. I'm actually, me and the music teacher at the school are really good
Nice.
friends now. From She's been working there for almost 9 years now. But digressing, so I'm hesitating because when I talk about the school, I don't want to give enough information that you can
Yeah, yeah,
pinpoint it. So I want to choose my words
absolutely.
words right. Um, the school is obviously in Austin. It's in a lower income area of Austin where, I mean, I'm just gonna be blunt. And I'm just human and I'm not trying to, be insensitive, but this is facts. Like, I have conversations with fetal alcohol syndrome babies, with meth babies, crack, and these children that have these cognitive
Hmm.
disabilities, from things they didn't do.
Hmm.
Let's put it that way. And then, the society's is gonna write them off, right? And it's not even so much teaching the music; it's just sitting there having a conversation. It's so powerful how much a male figure, and like, not to give myself more power than I need, but like when I walk into the classroom and I'm talking to those kids, the boys are sitting there looking at me just like, and they're all wide eyed and staring at me like, oh, so I need to be the example of how a man
Hmm.
treats his wife. How, and there was a time where Reggie went to that school, and how a man treats their son and stuff like that. Uh, so it's very good practice for me to be on my P's and Q's around the kids. One, two, teaching the kids, music that, everybody loves hip hop and their heads are bobbing and it's like, oh man, there's this extra smart black dude who does music. I don't,
Yeah.
once again, trying to break those
Right.
norms, bringing black light. Uh, I can be smart and intelligent and do all of that. You get what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? And not have to be the thug, not have to be this, and not let what my parents' stigmas put on me determine who I am. Is my main message for them. You have all this against you. You know what I mean? You can't go nowhere else but up. All you gotta do is work. You know what I mean? And that's what I tell them all the time. Hard work, work at this. Work. You get where I'm at. I mean, like I'm speaking to the choir from being on this podcast, but once again, just it's always humbling when you're looking at a child who didn't even ask for this, that has nothing, and then me being in my situation where you say, I say that I'm not big, that's just me limiting myself. And I don't know, just so many
Yeah.
gifts, right? that I'm just trying to reiterate that I get from the kids. So enough talking. That's what I'm
No,
getting from
and
them. It's so much. I can't even put into words,
yeah,
man,
no,
really.
that's powerful, and I love that. And you know, our side of things, like having fostered and adopted our two boys and stuff, is you're you're trying to raise awareness and bring strength and power and to these kids and encourage them. Um, but you're also trying to make sure that you're not being boastful, that you're not saying like, well, I am all this, you can be this too if you do exactly what I do. Like, no, it's there is a level of humility that you have to have when it comes to it. And for us, one of the things that we constantly heard and still hear when it comes to having fostered and adopted our kids is like, oh, those boys are so blessed to have you, they're so lucky to have you and stuff. And we quickly correct them and say, no, no, they're not lucky to have us. They're not blessed to have us. We can be a blessing to them. But the fact of the matter is, like, for our family to be the nucleus it is, another family had to be pulled apart. These other
Mm,
things had to happen in order for us to have these kids. And so while we can be a blessing to them, like, they are not lucky that their parents were in the situations that they were in. They're not blessed because of that. Like, we can be a blessing to them and we can help them, we can love them, we can give them a different future than they might have had if they had stayed with their parents. But it's and so we're quick to point out that we're not angels, we're not, gods on earth. We're, you know, we can be great parents, we strive to be great parents to these kids, but that's all you really can do is you can only make the most of the moments while you're in them, instead of
mm-hmm.
thinking that, like, okay, well, because I went and spent this time at the school, these kids are all going to be rappers and rock stars when they grow up. Like, no, that's not why you're there. You're there to give them a break from what they have grown up and been feeling with. You're giving them an outlet. You're giving them opportunities for growth and for positivity and optimism stuff. The things that they're coming from are still there, but you're showing them another way, and so you're being a blessing to them just as we're being a blessing to our kids. So it's kind of how I
Yeah.
view it and see what you're doing. So, I props to you on doing that.
Yeah.
And
I like how you
oh,
put that, by the way. Very,
thank
very
you,
powerful.
thank you. It's just, it's how we feel. It's the truth of the matter. Like, it's hard for us during, while it's a day for us to celebrate Mother's Day, Father's Day, their birthdays. There's also a part of us that, like, okay, what are their birth parents experiencing? What are they thinking? Are they thinking, like, and that's, it's such a good day for us, but it's also just weighs on our heart so heavy and stuff too. It's like, oh, so um
Well, I mean, not to be, well, yeah, actually, to be blunt, but at some point, you guys got to
oh,
let that go.
absolutely.
That is not, I mean, don't, you know. you guys obviously have enough room in your heart, to deal with it, but like just don't let that block the more. If that's there and there could have been more love there, then there's a problem, right? I'm not trying to tell you how to live your
No,
life. I'm just stating the fact. Don't let that hold you
I
back.
completely agree with that. There's times where like yeah, I feel that, but then there's times where like my wife will bring it up. I'm like, can we just move on? Can we just like
Yeah.
and I get it. Like she's very empathetic as well, and and that's one of the things I love about her. Like and I could give a whole podcast series or a whole another podcast about all the wonderful things of my wife, and that's me getting points right there as well as talking the truth. But you know, there's times where we're like, okay, let's just move on from it. So
Hmm.
well, so new music coming. What else is in the works for Blacklight hip hop?
So far, what's in the works of Blacklight Hip Hop is I just want to make sure Stokely has the main foundation that he's coming up on 2 years old. The first 5 years are the most
Mm-hmm.
important years of their life, right? So I want to take it slow, but I want to take it fast, right? Uh, so I'm going to continue to work on music and putting videos out there, but still allowing way more than enough time for family at this point because we are now a new family again. Whereas before I had a middle school
Mm-hmm.
son. He's everything else. He has to, except for small things, right? The basis of his character is already
Mm-hmm.
built. So you
Oh
get what I'm saying. Speaking to the choir
yeah.
once again, that's my main focus right now. But obviously, I'm not gonna stop
Good,
doing
good,
music.
good.
Love it.
So there's like no plans to come to like Northeast Ohio anytime soon on tour or any of that. Like,
So the what is happening from a business situation, from a business standpoint, even after the Queer Eye show, there's still a lot of unease about the pandemic and this new monkeypox and this new that. And I'm not the type of person to cancel the
right.
show, right? I will go even if I'm gonna make like $45
Mm-hmm.
there. I'm gonna try my best to do the show, but we have to be real with ourselves with the newborn baby,
Absolutely.
gas, and touring and stuff like that. Um, I'm patient. I feel like it's going to
Good.
happen. But Stokely's,
Absolutely.
number
Absolutely.
one. If we didn't have Stokely, oh man, I'd be sleeping in a car doing whatever I got to do to get to these shows. But
Yeah.
I take it slow
Cool.
a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, it hurts a lot to say that. You have no idea how much it took for me to get over. Like I can't get out there, just keep doing my thing. But
No, man, I get it, and respect to you, Dad, as staying there, making him your priority. So absolutely, absolutely. And where else? Anything else going on? Like, obviously, Sasha's in talks with on movie stuff, and anything else big going on with the DeVore family?
just little Reggie and the college school going on, getting that balance, Stokely. And I would say my producer side is pretty exciting. I've been working with a couple of pretty talented artists and putting out a lot of their music. It's always easier to
Mm-hmm.
do that. You know what I mean? Just to come and record, mix, and master and do their stuff than it is to create all of mine from scratch, which takes
Right.
forever, really. But so doing that, um, I've gotten a lot of joy out of it. I'll text you a couple of the artists that
Cool.
I'm working with, so you can have like the names and stuff like that. They're really,
I would
really good,
I would
really
love that.
good.
I love that. And
Mhm.
and lastly, if you were if they were to make a movie about Blacklight, about the DeVore family, who would play you? One. And two, what artist, in addition to yourself, like if you were pulling Eminem and doing an 8 Mile soundtrack, what other artists would you want to have on the soundtrack to your movie about your life?
Well, I think that I'm young enough to play
There you go.
myself. If I didn't play me, I have a
Okay.
nephew, you know, who's older than my son, who's also seen my whole come up. He would be a good candidate for that. Now, for other artists that I want to get, that I would love to make a with an unlimited budget. Man, I'm such an old school so Jadakiss is one of my
Right.
favorites. Uh, and I'm trying not to say obviously Nas, Jay Z, Michael Jackson, those guys. Obviously those guys, but I want to pull out some real nuggets. Um, Tupac, but he's
Right.
dead, right?
So they say.
Um, so they say. Oh, J. Cole. I would love to do a song with J. Cole and Wale. Um, let's see, Slim Thug from Texas. That would
There
be
you go.
cool. Who else? Obviously Kendrick, but that's a kind of a career ender if you don't have a good good enough verse, right? Because Kendrick is a
Right.
monster. Um, Snoop Dogg.
Okay.
I mean, I can list forever.
Hey, man.
Let me give you two more. Let's see. Uh, man, Nipsey's gone. Okay, the baby is really good. He's mainstream. The baby's really good. And maybe Chris Brown just to throw a R&B
Okay.
in
Okay.
there.
Yeah, because you've had some of those a little bit more harmonic hooks and stuff on some of your songs, so I could see the Chris Brown on there.
Hmm.
Okay. Sweet, sweet. All right. Well, I don't want to take any more time, dude. I appreciate you being on here so much and sharing your story and just really just being you, shedding the light on all the things going on in the country that needs to be brought to light, as well as being a light for me as a father, just seeing how you are raising your sons and being the kind of man you are for them and for your family, for Sasha, and holding down for family. So thank you for being that light for me as well. Where can people find out more about you, follow you, and find out about your music, and if and when you when you do start touring? I'm not gonna say if, when you do start touring again. Yeah.
Oh, it's definitely going to
Yeah.
be a
Oh yeah.
win.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
definitely going to be a win. So, the easiest way, www.blacklighthip-hop.com. No crazy spellings, just blacklighthip-hop.com. It has links to all my social media, articles, videos, links to my YouTube. So that's the first place you should probably go to get updates for that. You can sign up for my newsletter from there. I give a little more personal taste in there. I think our next segment's coming up is a more updates on the family. A lot of people have been asking about how little Reggie's cooking career is
Nice.
going. Great, by the way. I would stand up and show you my belly, but also, I'm on all the uh, music streaming platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, Tidal.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
And if you're in Austin, come check me out at the show. I'm normally, performing once or twice a
Sweet.
month.
Sweet. Well, again, Reggie, I just appreciate you so much for coming on, taking the time to be with me. Just many continued blessings for you and your family, and raising your wonderful boys, and take care of your great wife. For everyone else, you know, obviously we've talked about fertility struggles, we've talked about foster care, adoption, we've talked about all kinds of things, but here we have another example of a father that he is doing the things he needs to take care of his family, hold it down his family, putting his touring on hold stuff, but just for the meantime, but he's going to get back to it. But just remember that it doesn't matter what you come from, what your background is, whatever you have going on in your life, just make that time, reach out for someone, and be there for someone, because we are born into our names, but we become family by heart. See you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dustin.